This is a first for me. So tell me tell me about this.
Well, so I used Google Forms in order to create a poll, and then I posted that poll, pretty much all over the internet, and didn't get many responses, but just asked people to help me cull my images down from however many it was, 8 to 5 for the critique.
Okay, so you went outside of the Arcanum too, just to get like a general consensus, or are these all apprentices?
And no, I went outside the Arcanum as well.
Okay, good. How did you feel about the picks? Were they in line with the ones that you were thinking of, or did any of them surprise you?
Not really any surprises. There were a couple I was on the fence about, and rather than fight it, I just decided to go with what everybody chose.
Okay, good. Okay, well, let's take a look at them. So tell me about this one.
Well, okay, so actually I got stood up for a photo shoot on this day, and then I called up Chris and said, "Hey, man, come on over." And he came over real fast, and he was pretty nervous. Most people whose pictures I take, they've had the standard portrait done in a standard studio, same old, smile, say cheese, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I told him we were looking for something with a little bit more emotion on this one. And, I don't really recall how we got to this point, but this was the image out of 300 pictures. This was the one that stood out to me.
Okay.
And it's just a single light source, camera right, raised up a little bit, and a reflector to the left.
Okay. How would you rate this one?
I would rate it a 2.
Okay. So I love this shot. This is one of my favorite that I've seen from you so far. The texture is really nice in this one, from the t-shirt to his hair to the skin. Like, it's just got this really nice dichotomy, and there's a lot of punch to it, even though it's a black and white image that makes it very three-dimensional, which I feel sometimes gets lost when we start like monotoning or going to black and white. And this one still has a lot of just voluptuousness to the visuals of it that I really like. I do not have a lot of critique for this image. I really like the contrasty color. I wish that we didn't have quite so much shadow under his eyelashes. I think that's the only thing, is it gets really dark right here and really dark underneath the eyebrow, particularly on his right, our camera left. And some of that I think is just because his skin tone is so dark, so it's going to naturally pick up the shadows more. I'm also not completely sold on the highlight, the way that it's hitting his forehead, because it's really accentuating these lines across here and making them really deep set. And he's a very young person, so he shouldn't quite have all of those yet. So, but again, this is one of the things that I struggle with when I shoot people too. Darker skin tones tend to accentuate the shadows and reflect the highlights a lot bolder, because they're so dark that when the highlights hit them, there's like, it's white. So you get like this very, very high contrast. And sometimes that gets lost in more fair skin tones. Like Irish girls, I can blow out all day because their skin's so pale that it doesn't pick up the highlight anyway. But that's really, like, those are the only two things that I would pick out. It's just a little bit hot on his forehead. Maybe just a little bit on the bridge of the nose, but not enough that it really bothers me. And then it's a little hot, and we lose like just a minimal amount right here on the shoulder from where the light's hitting. So, but I think you could probably go in and just select this shoulder right here, and tone it down just ever so slightly, and then it would be fine. But I also think that hot spot is also what really pulls him and separates him from the background, because this is a lot more separate and coming forward three-dimensionally out of the photo than this shoulder is. So it's a trade-off. But overall, I love the negative space. I love his emotion. I love the shot. I love the texture. I love the way that you processed it. This one would get a 3 for me. I don't know why it didn't make your top list, but I would give it a 3. It's one of my favorites from you. It's a good way to start a critique.
A good way to start a critique, yes.
Okay, tell me about this one.
Well, obviously Richard here is a motorcycle rider, and we met just outside of the base here. There's a dead end road, and we met at the end of that road and set up the camera equipment and just started taking some pictures. And this one was an accident. Accidentally, I was lying down on the ground, and I hit my shutter speed accidentally and bumped it up above sync speed, and that's why I cut him off at the top. And I was pretty bummed about that, but then I decided to see what I could do with it, and I really ended up liking it. And I took a lot of time in this one where he wasn't quite on the center line of the road, and I even moved the line over underneath the tire and did a lot of stuff like that.
Okay.
So,
Well, I do like that you went as far as to do that, because there's a lot of symmetry to this image, and I feel like if the line was like over, that it would completely throw that off and probably kill the image. But there is so much symmetry that I'd also be inclined to take out, I guess it's a rag here.
yeah.
In contrast, copy it and add it over here just to create the symmetry, because you could almost divide this image right down the middle,
Right.
and it's pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of the fade into blackness up here. I'd really like to see more of him, or I think that you could probably go the other way and actually zoom it in. Like, I feel like it depends on what you're shooting for, but if this isn't important, I feel like you could probably cut it here, and then this is a stronger image in crop and composition than having all this negative space that just kind of fades out up here.
Right.
And if you're doing that too, then you're also cutting off, because it is weighted to one side because you have the extra patch here and the cloth here. So being able to pull that up a little bit, I think that works better, and it makes the bike the champion of the shot, and the person on it actually becomes sort of the supporting role, or essentially the furniture, in comparison. But it's definitely about the bike then, and I think that this would work better than having the fade. So some of the hot spots with the flex on the road, I'd be inclined to go in and touch out. Like, there's certain ones that really stand out for me as like not part of the texture of the road, but like just really bright specks. This one would definitely go. I've looked at that a couple of times, and there's definitely nothing down here that should be drawing my image away from the bike itself. So I would go in and just clean up and clone out some of these spots that really stand out. But I do love the symmetry. I love that you went in and moved the line so that it was centered, and you did it excellently. I would not have known that if you hadn't told me, which means it's a really well done edit. So you should be proud of that. I think if you cropped it, it would score a high 2 for me. Right now, it's just skirting over to the 2. I definitely think that you hit most of it. But this top quarter of the image is really killing it for me. Yeah. So I'm gonna give you 2, but it's like a B. It's like a solid B. It's not even a B plus.
Alrighty.
All right. Tell me about this one.
Well, I'm not particularly fond of this image. She's a lot prettier than the image gives her credit for. She wasn't even. I had no intention of shooting her this day. I actually went to do some product shots for somebody, and she happened to be standing around, and I turned around and she just did that. So I ripped off a few frames, and really no intention at all. And She had awesome hair. Um, so then I processed it. It was in horrible light. Oh, the angle that I had her at was horrible. She had these weird shadows all over her face, and I pretty much tore apart her skin trying to fix all of that.
Mm. Yeah, I gotta kind of agree with you. I'm not a huge fan of this one. She does have very pretty hair though. It makes me crazy that we have this like long like collection of it right here, and then it's kind of spread and spider webbed in the rest of its back. Like it should have probably all been back over her shoulder.
Right.
Um, and if she has beautiful, almost perfect hair, I would definitely go in and clone out these flyaways here to accentuate that perfect hair. Like this, everything below here would go for me. All of this out here would go, and I would take the time to go in and retouch out these individual hairs because her hair is so close to perfect that it actually does bug me here, and usually it doesn't.
Mm.
I'm not a fan of the crop, and I'd like to see it either up a little bit higher or down a little bit lower. I just don't think that it's working with the cut right here. And she's pretty, but that's like the best that I can say. Her expression isn't really, it's almost like she's looking just above you and not at you. So there's no, even though she's looking to the viewer and she broke that fourth wall, there's no real emotive connection to it. And some of that might be the post processing. If you had to do a lot of fixing with shadows and light because you had bad light, I've lost images like that where you end up losing the emotion and the expression as a
Mm.
result because you have to do so much to fix it. Her skin's a little over smoothed for my like. Um, this one would be a one for me. I don't think it's portfolio worthy, especially not following a shot like the first one. Like that's an incredible portrait. I would never put these two in the same and go, these were probably taken by the same photographer. So this one would go for me. I'd let it go as a learning experience.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, tell me about this one.
Um, this is Rose. She's a friend of mine. She's his girlfriend, and he called me up one day and said that she'd be interested in doing some pictures. And so I met them at a kind of like a food district, restaurant district downtown, and um, she was the most nervous person that I've ever seen. I mean, just like sweaty hands, really rapid breathing, just while we were doing the photo shoot, and it had everything to do with the photo shoot and nothing to do with anything else. And it was a challenge for me, and it was a good experience to try to get somebody like that and actually calm them down and get them to produce something,
Okay.
um, and to build some type of rapport like that. It took some doing, it took some time, but overall, I mean, I kind of like this shot. It's I don't know. There's just something about it for
And tell
me.
me, tell me a little about the skin retouching you're doing. Is that her texture or is that something you're overlaying after?
No, I mean that's her texture. So I did a good bit of micro dodging and burning, and then also some frequency separation. But I mostly just do the color toning and frequency separation.
Okay. I really love this image. There's something very striking about it. The catch lights are beautiful in her eyes, and I love that you managed to get a little bit of color because when you shoot people that have this kind of complexion and this sort of dark chocolate kind of tone to the eyes and the hair, a lot of times the eyes just become these like black balls, and you can't separate the pupils and the edges of the iris from them. So I'm happy that we kept some of the lighter color in here. I think that's really good. There's just a couple of little touch-ups that I would still go in and do. I would definitely clean up this eyebrow and some of the stray hairs there because they're looking a little masculine for me. And she has beautiful shape. So I think just going in and trimming some of these would be good. And probably this one right here, I would cut back just a little so that it follows the natural shape. These ones too got away they would go as well. You have this really interesting focus thing going on that I'm not sure if that's all in camera or if you went in and intentionally blurred around, but like it's super, super sharp on her cheeks. And then her lips are like, I think we went a little bit overboard on the lips as far as the sharpness and the texture of them. They almost look to the point that they're chapped. But then her hair is like super soft, and it's also really soft on her forehead here and her nose. So it's just, I think because we sharpened so much on the lips and the texture on the cheeks and under the eyes, that it's making it look a little bit off when the others are so out of focus or in such a shallow depth of field. On the other hand, if I wanted to keep attention here, the other thing that grabs me is that these are almost like painting tendrils because they're so soft focus. But then over here, all the flyaways are tack sharp. So I'd be inclined to go in here and actually soften the focus of the hair, because the hair isn't the shot, the eyes are, like, bar none. So I'd probably go in and soften ever so slightly the focus of the skin just a little bit, and I'd back off on the lips a little and let the eyes shine, because I think the sharpness of them is what tells the story. The coloring is beautiful. I love the tonality of the skin. You did a really good job there. And I like that the colors that are echoed from her face and her clothing are also getting pulled up. Like we have a lot of the skin tone in the light back here and then the blue. So the color theory works really nice with this image all the way around. This would definitely be a 2 for me. I think there's a couple little tweaks that you could do to bring it up another notch. But it's definitely a good image.
Okay, cool.
All right, tell me about these ones.
Oh gosh, this was just for fun. This was actually taken in a squash court, and so I took it a really shallow depth of field. She wanted some images just for Instagram, and this is what I came up with. Anyway, there's nothing really much to it. For me, there's something about I think more the composition than anything.
Okay.
For me, it feels well balanced. But I did have to go in and do a lot, like cleaning up the skin on the legs and working with some of the discoloration on the toes and things like that. So it's not really, you might say it's a product shot, but it's not really a product shot, because she said, hey, really, I just want some cute images on Instagram of my product, but it doesn't have to be perfect lighting, perfect focus, all that kind of stuff. So
I think this works great as product photography or commercial work. It definitely looks like a shoe ad. And I like it in the black and white. That's kind of off. You don't usually see too much advertising for clothing apparel that's in black and white. But it works if these shoes are actually black and white. But if they're like, really dark red and gold, like then you can't know what you're buying. So that's something to keep in mind. But I think as an art piece, it works really well. And as a conversation starter, this would definitely get me to at least pause while I was scrolling through the feed. It works well. I like the negative space. I like the little hint of reflection that we're getting under her feet. It's a little hot on the toes. We start to lose the edge of the nail into the flesh. So I think if we could go in and darken this up just a little to create that separation, that would be good. And it gets just a little hot right here, but that might also be part of like the screen. Like that's always the trade-off when you're looking at a backlit image. It might print fine, but if she's sharing it on social media, I think going in and just darkening right here just to really keep that separation between her skin and the background on the outsides of the feet. Because you have to account for a lot of different screens and different settings and different devices that are viewing it differently. Like things that look totally fine to me on my computer will look completely blown out on my phone because my phone screen is brighter.
Right.
But I love the sharpness of it. I love the simplicity of it. I love all the negative space. I think it works as a black and white image. It's definitely a good shot. So I would give this one, I think I still have to, I think I would give it a 2 as a product shot, but I think it would be a 3 as far as just your portfolio of images. Because I really don't have too much negative critique about it. So it is a really good shot. But if we're looking at it specifically for product work, then I think we probably had to at least consider it in color for the sake of continuity and purchase. So
Yeah, and I did give her a color copy of this because the shoes are black and teal. I guess a teal. And
okay.
So the copy that I did give to her was in color, and you could see more of the separation between the foot and the background, and that because I in the original in the original image the background isn't blown out like this.
Okay.
It was just for the black and white conversion, and I mostly did the black and white conversion for myself. And then when she saw it, she's like, "Oh, I like that one." So I said, "Okay."
Good stuff. Okay, so you've made it through your first critique. You're still here. That's a good sign.
Yes, ma'am.
How are you feeling? So you came in, you've only been here for a couple of levels. What is it that you're looking to gain for the next couple of levels before you hit level 20?
Well, as far as just purely from a creative side and being able to do post processing and all that kind of stuff, I'm looking for some consistency. I'm very inconsistent. Like I'll throw out a picture like Paola with the beautiful hair and horrible face, what I've done to her. And then I'll throw out something like Chris, and it's just awfully consistent. Um, so I think I need more confidence in what I'm doing. So that's kind of really what I'm shooting for. I mean, I've done some over the past couple of weeks. I've done a couple of projects, and I've been pretty happy with it. I don't know, just something's not sitting right with my work yet.
Okay. So one of the tough questions is the shot of Chris, is that lucky? Can you reproduce that quality? Or did you get lucky with it?
No, I can, and I actually posing is something that I'm starting to study. I just started this past week. I'm studying it a good bit. I've never studied posing before. Anything outside of headshots, I feel just like a duck out of water or fish out of water. Sorry, and so I'm starting to study that more. But that pose that Chris had in that photo, I set him up for that, and it was something where. I told him with him because I kind of know him and I know some of the struggles that he's going through. I said, okay, here's the emotion that we're going for here. And so I completely set him up for that shot. And so when I think of posing like that, I would love every image that I produce to have really deep emotion. I would love it if I could pull that off. When I take the time to look at somebody like Chris and understand him and convert his energy into an image like that, I feel like I can do that. It's just when I don't know somebody very well and I don't feel comfortable posing yet. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Okay, so Chris is a friend of yours.
He's an acquaintance. Yeah, I haven't known him very long.
Okay, but if you have a client that comes in that you've never met before, that's harder for you to feel okay posing them and moving them?
Yeah, it's pretty tough for me. Just because really I think it's a lack of experience.
How long have you been shooting?
No, seriously, well, maybe a year.
Okay.
I mean, I've been into photography for a long time, but really I've been taking it seriously about a year.
Okay. I do think that that's natural if posing doesn't come inherently to you, that the ease to order around somebody that you know at least a little bit will come better than somebody else sitting down. I don't have that problem. I'm bossy with everyone. But I do think that on the other hand, the interesting thing is that when you work with clients and inexperienced models, they actually feel a lot more at ease if you are exceptionally bossy with them. If you're telling them everything to do, from fixing their hair to where their hand placement is, to where the light is, to how they're turning their head, then they feel confident that what you're seeing looks good and that you're going to make them look good, because it's very unnerving for most people to be in front of a camera. And photographers, we're the worst offenders. Like, we hide behind our cameras. We never want to be the subject of them. And we're like, no. So as soon as you get this big lens that now can catch every single line and wrinkle, and we've all seen how bad that works out for paparazzi photographers with celebs, like, everybody thinks that, like, they're going to sit in front of the camera and they're going to think that they're giving these really sexy faces, and really they're like in every shot. So
sorry.
That's okay. I have them too. Mine are going to come in a minute.
Talk to Mama about that. Go talk to Mama.
I want you, Dad.
Yeah. Well, Gene is famous now.
Cute. Yeah, so I wouldn't be shy about that, and I wouldn't feel like that's going to do anything but set your clients at ease when they're in front of the lens, because it's unnerving for them. I see it a lot when I shoot events or weddings, anytime I've done that, because they'll be like having themselves a good time, but as soon as they see that the lens has shifted in their direction, they like freeze, because they don't want to look stupid in their photos. So that helps with it a lot. So, and some of that'll just come with time as well. So really the best way to get over that is probably just to keep working at it, and keep shooting with a variety of people. Knowing what you're doing with posing helps, but that really depends on the situation and the model and what they look like. Like, there's universal posing laws for different genders and people, but it is kind of a tweaking to perfection at that point. Another thing that might be helpful for you is to just go and pick, say, 100 photos that you think are exceptional portraits. And when you have them all in the same grouping together, and you can look at them side by side with each other, you'll start to notice commonalities in the way that they have their heads turned and what a difference it makes and how it changes. Like, it's little things like you being down here totally ruins jawline for me because the shadow comes down here. And so even if you don't have a double jaw, like, you'll notice, like, girls take their pictures from up here all the time because it's all about angle placement. So even if I don't move the camera lens, just moving myself and changing where the camera is in relation to me sitting down, like, now you're looking at my nose and at my, like, double chin because I have no definition, as opposed to here. And sometimes that, like, half an inch is like all the difference in the world between I'm really need to lay off the Oreos and, you know, I have a very defined heart-shaped face. So, and it's the opposite with men. You know, with men, they're supposed to have more square jaw lines. So you don't want to shoot them like this, where you put a really thin heart-shaped kind of face, because having them at this angle actually takes away the masculinity, where having them here widens out the jawline. So it's little subtleties like that that are really the difference between exceptional portraits and going, this doesn't quite look right and I don't know why. And, you know, when they really love the way that they look, then they spend a lot of money on the way that they look. So
Right.
but a lot of that's learned just by looking. You know, it's like in all of my writing circles, all of my author friends say all the time, the most important thing about being a good author is being a good reader. It's the same thing. If you want to be really good as a photographer, looking at other pictures, start to teach you the different rules. So, but I'm glad to hear that you're giving that more focus. And I think that if you're starting to look and you can find the poses and get the sort of emotive qualities that you're getting from the first image that you shared, you're going to have no problem booking solid with that kind of work, because those images are just, they're stunning and you want to keep looking at them. So what is it that I can help you with? What is it that you're looking to learn in the next couple of levels? What would you like your focus to be?
Well, I need to learn how to manage customer expectations. I take my photography more creative than some other photographers that I know here. So a lot of times when somebody came to me and said, well, hey, I would like for you to shoot, do a session with me and my son. And I said, well, that's not really what I do, but I know another photographer down here that will do that for you. So I'm turning people away like that. And she actually came back to me and said, well, I don't want that other photographer, I want you. And that's very flattering, but the thing is, so I don't know, I might take a couple hundred photos, and I might only personally be happy with one, and I go to retouch it, but I put a lot of effort into retouching it. And it takes me a long time to retouch. And so by the time I get through doing the one that I like the most, I don't have the heart to retouch any of the others, partly because I'm not as attracted to the other photos as I am the one that I chose. But the other part is I don't feel comfortable just halfway retouching photos and turning over 20 photos. I don't want something that's not really my style to be kind of put out there.
Okay, I can definitely agree with that. You definitely want a recognizable style. Like, I feel like no matter who I shoot, the clients can share my images, and anybody that follows me that is connected to them will know it's my shot as soon as they see it. So that's a good thing. That is a goal that you should have. If you're doing portraits, which is pretty much what you brought to critique and what you're doing, you're not going to have a lot of clients that are going to be happy with a single image, unless you're building the business around the idea of creating a single fine art shot, and it's known that that's your business and that's what you do. So I guess the next question is, what is the ideal scenario for you as a photographer? Who do you want to shoot, and what is it that you want to return to them?
I like shooting individuals. I don't like shooting two or more people.
Okay.
I like shooting people that have a lot of character. I haven't really ran across too many of those yet, but one thing I think I've learned is that, I think it goes back to retouching. I'm almost finding that I like photographing men more than women, because it seems like it's easier for me to create a more compelling image of a man and make him look rugged and whatever, versus trying to make a woman look perfect. Because a lot of the women that come to me, they want to look perfect in their photos. I think a lot of why it takes me so long to make an image perfect for a woman would be because I don't typically use a hair and makeup artist. So they'll come to me and they'll say, well, I can do my own makeup, and I'll say, okay, like a fool, and then I get the images on the computer later, and it doesn't look like she has any makeup on at all. So I'm pretty much going to have to partner with some hair and makeup artists around here.
I definitely recommend that if you're shooting women, having a good hair and makeup artist, especially, I'll go out on a limb. This might sound a little sexist, but especially having a female photographer gives the girlfriend feel to her, because that's the first person that you're sitting down with then. So that might help them feel more at ease before they get in front of the lens. Like someone like the girl that you were telling me was like super nervous, sweaty palms the whole time you were shooting her. Having a good hair and makeup artist that, one, makes her feel fabulous before she even gets in front of your lens, and two, can do the girlfriend thing and just kind of set her mind at ease on a personality level has been invaluable to me. Like I don't know if I would shoot without Sarah. I'm more likely to just reschedule the session than I am to not have her on board for the shoot. So I definitely recommend that. However, I do understand what you're saying about shooting the more rugged, manly kind of feel. I totally get that vibe from the way that you light and the way that you retouch. A lot of that has to do with texture. So women, when you're doing feminine portraits, like if you look at mine, there's like almost no skin texture whatsoever because that soft kind of feel lends to the feminine fluid kind of visual. Men are very angular, women are very curvy. You know, women want flawless skin with no lines and no blemishes and nothing. We just want to look like, you know, perfect little Barbie dolls because that's what we see on the front of all of the magazines that tell us this is what beauty looks like. However, I think that looking at the two images of women that you brought to critique, you had one that you kept a lot of the texture and one that you pretty much softened to the point of being, you know, unrecognizable as skin as far as the texture. And I like the one with the texture more. So I do think that if you had a good hair and makeup artist that could make her look beautiful and flawless, and you could go in and retouch any serious blemishes out of the skin, that they would actually appreciate it. I can say that almost every single one of my female clients would yell at me if I took a photo of them like the first one you had and they had those deep inset lines, whereas men are less likely, like they'll feel like that makes them look rugged and distinguished, and girls are like, I look old, take them out. And they like, you know, they think if they rub their head hard enough that it'll go away in the picture too. And then that's all they'll see for a week, because women, it's all about youth, and youthful skin is flawless. Men, the older they get, the more they're worth. So it's like, it's this dichotomy, like, you know, men are distinguished when they get older, they get salt and peppered, and, you know, they have a better portfolio options to take care of and provide for the women. So it's like, it all goes back and forth to how men and women perceive their values in society. So it's a different standard. But I think that with the way that you shoot and you light, that it would be very interesting to have a series collection where you shoot women in studio in the same kind of way and create images like you did of the first shot. And I think that those would be very powerful and very potent images because they would stand out so much from almost every other photographer that is shooting women, that's shooting for like this glamour boudoir cover girl kind of flawless thing. I think you being able to shoot what they're perceiving as flaws in such a beautiful way that makes them so visually striking could actually be really empowering. So I wouldn't totally rule out women as as subject matter. I think that if you don't like doing group posing and like family portraits of like two or more people, that it would also be very interesting for you to structure your business around the idea that families can come in and get photographed, but that you do them as wall art where they're individual portraits of the whole. So like one tree, many leaves kind of thing, where you're not posing them all together in necessarily a family shot, but instead of coming up with something like that, where it's everybody all together, that you have these really striking portraits. If you had a series of pictures in black and white, like that first image of his whole family, that you could get matted and framed and lay across like a film strip or have staggered on the wall as different shots, I think that would be an incredible sales pitch that nobody else is doing right now.
ABC. I know she did, buddy. Go. I'll come in there in just a minute. Let me finish. No, you're
not. So that might be something that you look at that takes a bunch of things that you're trying to accomplish out, because then it might be that they come in and you create a single image for each of them. I'm just going to sit here and talk to myself now while he goes and tends to children.
All righty, I'm back.
That's okay. I deal with it too. So yeah, I think that you could probably go in and that would give you the ability to do what you said, where you might have one image that you really love, where you could create like family series or series for clients at work or whatever the group dynamic is, where you would be able to go in and pick your favorite photo and retouch that one image for them for each member, but be able to sell 5 or 6 prints, because essentially it's 5 or 6 mini shoots in a family of 6. Does that make sense?
It does.
Does that sound like we might be on the right track then?
Yeah, that model is something that I'd like to work with a lot.
Okay.
And yeah, as far as my style, I really do like very contrasty, pretty much most of the time one light portrait.
Okay.
Um, a really low key look. And there are times, I do like to do headshots where I just blast light at people, but what I really love to get creative with is the one light stuff.
Okay. Then I think that if that's what you're drawn to personally, then that's probably where we're going to find your personal style and consistency. So I spent a lot of time my first year or two fighting my style, because my makeup artist would get mad. She would do this beautiful like peacock blue and purple in the eyeshadow, and then I would dull it down because I always mute my tones. They call it Lark sepia now, and they pick on me about it. And I felt like I wasn't doing it right. So I was trying to like teach myself to edit differently and teach myself to shoot differently to accommodate these other ideas. But I actually got really successful, and I started booking full time once I went, no, this is how I shoot. This is what I like. I'm going to edit this way. And then once I accepted that, like my style was evident in all of them. So maybe you're battling that a little bit, trying to be more commercially acceptable. But I'm a big believer that we could probably sit and build exactly the style that you like to shoot, and the thing that sets you apart, that you're like, oh, it's kind of like my thing, but I'll learn how to do this too. You should probably not follow it up with that. You should just go, that's kind of my thing. Let me explore that deeper and perfect that so that it becomes my thing. And then nobody else can do it. So you have more people doing exactly what you were getting, which is, I don't want to go shoot with them. I need to have you. And you go, okay, well, I'll do that. And they're like, but I need to have you, and you need to shoot all 3 of us together. Well, I will do that for you, but it's triple the price, or you can let me shoot the way that I like to shoot, which is, that's my thing now. Like, if I don't want to do it, it's not that I don't want to do it. My question now is like, before I used to go, do I want to do this or not? And I would turn work away. Now I go, what is the price I need to want to do this? So if it's family portraits or it's senior portraits, I get paid 3 times the amount that I get paid to do boudoir, because I'd rather shoot a girl in her underwear, you know? And I still, like, I have the clients that are like, I don't care, I really want you to do it. And then I'm like, okay, well, if we're talking $7,500 for 10 pictures, yes, I can. I will move around my own things. So things to think of, because it's nice when you have to do one shoot the entire month to cover all of your living expenses, and then I'm okay with it. So things to keep in mind. But I would say that for the rest of the foundation sphere, which is only a couple of levels for you now, that we should be focusing on all of those levels, really honing in on what your particular style is in the way that you shoot and the way that you retouch, and developing a consistency. I should be able to pick your images out of everybody else's before I see that it's you that posted it. And personally, I think if we're looking for wow images, the first image you shared is your strongest image. So I would love to see a series of images like that. You do have the ability to pull it out in color, but I think that it's stronger in black and white.
Yeah.
And I think that you're attracted to black and white, because I see a lot of black and white work from you.
Yeah, I'm actually, when you messaged me earlier, I was working on one in black and white.
Good. Okay. Good. So that's pretty much everything I have. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. I like what you're saying, and I like that I feel like, so I do have a lot of questions, and you put me on the spot right now asking the questions, live on the air here, and It's tough, but they'll come out over the next few challenge levels, and I'm glad that I have somebody to kind of help walk me through that.
Okay. Well, I think we're done then. So I'm going to hit stop broadcast. You passed
Okay,
with flying colors. Welcome to level 15.
outstanding.